Hi, Angel. Thanks for joining us. So how was your experience reporting from the UN?
Oh, it was amazing. It was really something to see. I think there was over 2,000 people attending, and it was amazing to see people come from all over the world coming together and speaking with each other. And the atmosphere was a friendliness, a unity. This year was the focus of self-determination and emphasizing Indigenous youth. So there were a lot of youth there, and it was really inspiring to see the youth presenting their concerns about their communities and what they need and you know what is going on. And really listening to these youth, you realize that you're actually watching the future, our future leaders. So it was quite impressive.
And with so many events happening, what was the most memorable one for you?
I would say there's two, but the first one was on the first day. Everyone goes into the General Assembly, and everyone is wearing their traditional clothing and regalia, and that's the first day, and it's quite emotional because you realize, you know, this is one of few events where Indigenous people worldwide can come together and raise their concerns about accountability and self-determination and protection, and you hear what's going on everywhere. So it was quite something. That was an emotional day to set the tone at the beginning. But what probably was the most memorable was not at the United Nations itself. It was in Times Square. The Abenaki Nation of Quebec rented a billboard, and it came on every hour for 1 minute, and the billboard said, Stop Indigenous identity fraud. And that was the night before they held their side event on the same topic. So the Abenaki leaders came together, and the youth ambassadors came in Times Square, and we watched it all lit up, and it was quite emotional. And that set the tone for the side event the next day, which was very informative. And they spoke about the harms of identity fraud. And what was interesting was that they spoke about the harms to the culture and to the languages. You know, they're practicing their culture and languages from their elders and elders of elders and, you know, back generations. And they made a note that identity fraud really risks all that culture and traditions and practices, because the alleged identity fraud does not go back generations, right, because they don't have it. So it was a very informative side event as well.
And I think I might know what your answer would be to this, but do you think the event's worth it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so it was worth it because, you know, coming out of COVID and all the Zoom meetings, you know, and the telephone meetings that we've all been doing, and you know, it's still a practice today. But to come together in person, and you know, people were networking with each other, people were discussing, sharing resources and solutions, and people were meeting other people, just bumping into each other in the hallway or over a cup of coffee, someone from the other side of the world, and discussing issues and you know, possible events and outcomes, and sharing ideas to make the world a better place to protect Indigenous rights and territories.
And what do you think are the outcomes of all these meetings?
That's a good question, you know, and sometimes you hear about the United Nations being irrelevant, but actually I don't believe it is now that I've experienced that. The forum does not make policies or regulations or changes. What it is an advisory body to UNESCO, and in turn UNESCO reviews the recommendations that they've heard at the forum, and they decide what they can do and how they can do it to make policy recommendations to the General Assembly. And of course the General Assembly is where the real change happens, and real policies are implemented, and governments are held accountable in hopes to protect, you know, Indigenous rights, sovereignty, and land.
Interesting stuff for sure. Well, we'll have to leave it there, Angel, but thank you so much for giving us a recap of your time in New York City.
Thank you very much.